It all happened when Slaparf had an argument with his twin brother Garboil over a complete misunderstanding. Slaparf is a creature species called Adulbdiba. His twin Garboil is also the same species. They are like bird-like creatures with yellow-orange skin, one eye, bird-like beaks, badger claws, horns on both their heads and tail, and even a few dorsal fins on their back, meaning they have the ability to swim, and they only have 2 toes on their feet. Slaparf had always been paranoid, shuddering, anxious, and rather nervous one. He can oftentimes show a sign of snappiness if he's not in so good mood. Garboil, on the other hand, is always a so-called tough guy. Oftentimes, he doesn't treat Slaparf well and tends to not only get verbal but physical from him whenever Slaparf makes the littlest of mistakes and screw-ups. This always leads to Slaparf feeling very weak and defenseless as he spent hours or longer alone, crying and sobbing, bawling his eye out until his mouth became severely dry and his eye would be very bloodshot. Slaparf even had many trouble sleeping due to the depression and anxiety. However, what happened would be the last ever argument Garboil would have with Slaparf, and how Slaparf ran away from the cave and got himself in a dangerous situation. The 2 Adulbdibas were outside of the cave, searching for food to help them last for a good month, since winter was soon to arrive, and they weren't capable of surviving the winter without food. Slaparf always stood a slight distance away from Garboil as he searched, but the moment Slaparf stood there, unsure if he should help, he was suddenly interrupted by a, "You gonna help or not?" That came from Garboil. The tone was, as usual, unfriendly from him, as if annoyed that Slaparf didn't doing nothing. Slaparf's heart skipped a beat before replying, yeah, sure." And then with that, he scattered around searching. The search went on for a few hours, but they managed to find food. However, Slaparf's clumsiness got the best of him again, like it always did. He started struggling, holding down the amount of healing fruits until he suddenly tripped off all the healing fruits rolled, falling down into the waterfall. Garboil saw this, and he clenched his fist and growled in a fit of rage as he stormed over to Slaparf and shouted, "You idiot!" Slaparf jumped upon hearing Garboil shouting, It was an accident, Slaparf spoke, but would stutter, but would then get interrupted again by Garboil shouting, "Accident? Yeah, sure, you always mess up. Now because of you, we're not going to be able to have enough to survive for the winter." Garboil lent out a claw and slashed Slaparf across the side, causing Slaparf to yelp in a bit of pain. Garboil then resumed his ranting. "I think the only mistake here is you. It always has been. If only you weren't ever born, my life would have been better without you." Those words were enough to send Slaparf in a huge emotional state. Tears welled up in his eye, and those words sent a punch to the gut to him. They echoed in his mind for almost a good minute before speaking. "You know what? You're right. I am a mistake. I've never have been good enough." His voice shook as he spoke these, tears falling from his eye. Garboil, realizing how harsh and far he was with those words, actually made a sense of pity. "Dang it, I didn't mean to. I was just mad, bro. It was out of anger, Garboil was interrupted through Slaparf shouting, "Don't even apologize." Garboil took a step back, wincing as Slaparf snapped back. Slaparf continued to speak. "You always treat me like garbage every time I make the littlest of mistakes. And it's no wonder why I feel scared, anxious, and paranoid around you. It's because you always get mad at me each time I mess up. Because of you, I always am so damn depressed and anxious to where I can't even get enough sleep." Slaparf stopped as he panted heavily, a mixture of anger and sadness on his expression, as heavy tears ran down from his cheeks. He then spoke one last time. "You want me gone? Fine, don't come looking for me. I promise you'll never see me again." Slaparf then turned away before running off, not even looking back at Garboil. "Slaparf!" Garboil called out, but Slaparf had already vanished. He didn't even bother to chase him or stop him, but he stood there as his twin vanished into darkness. Guilt washed over Garboil as he cursed at himself. "Why did I take it that far? I don't know why I keep getting angry at him. Damn it. Now he's never going to forgive me, and now I'll probably never see him again. And little did Garboil know that it will be true. Slaparf sat near a forest-like place. It was dark, fog surrounded him, but he didn't care much. He sat there, eye bloodshot and having forlorn expression on his face, until he heard a rustling sound in the distance. He immediately perked his head up to see where the rustling sound was coming from. Curious, he got up and walked over to where it was heard. It was coming from the bushes. Slaparf slowly approached the bushes and quietly said, hello? No response though. But suddenly the rustling stopped. Slaparf spoke again. Can you come out of there? Once again, no response. Slaparf very slowly reached his hand out to examine the bushes, and suddenly a black creature jumped out and bit him in the arm. Slaparf staggered back and yelped out in pain as the creature bit him. Slaparf fell back and looked back at the black creature. Its eyes were as blood red, and it had jagged teeth. Foam was coming out of its mouth as it growled at Slaparf aggressively. What was that for? Slaparf yelled out as he clutched onto his bleeding, bitten arm in pain. The creature didn't respond. It let out a snicker. Its grin was menacing, almost evil. It then took off running, vanishing into the fog. This sent a shiver down Slaparf's spine. Why did the creature chuckle like that? Why did it look so intimidating? Almost evil. What's with the red in its eyes, and why was it foaming non-stop at the mouth? Was this creature infected with something? Slaparf gulped. He hoped this creature's bite wouldn't infect him next, but he could not escape it now. Hours passed. Slaparf felt it. He felt lightheaded and very feverish. He clutched his head as he started to feel faint. His vision blurred, and he could hear ringing in his ears. He collapsed onto his knees, and the adrenaline kicked in, the infection now taking over his veins, and suddenly he growled. He growled low before revealing his jagged teeth. Foam came out of his mouth, and his eye was now very bloodshot. He got up and very slowly walked, vanishing into the fog. Garboil sat alone in the moonlight stoneway, cave home of his, when he suddenly perked his head up, hearing footsteps. He got up curious to look around. Then a low growl was heard echoing throughout the cave. Garboil looked to see where the growling came from, but was frozen in shock upon seeing the figure before him, who slowly stepped into the light. It was Slaparf. His eye was bloodshot, his body was covered in blood and scratches, his teeth were jagged, and he cast a menacing, disturbing grin on his face. He was even foaming from the mouth non-stop. It's a Slaparf? Garboil spoke but he could not say anything else as terror overtook him. He took another step back. Slaparf didn't respond. He had instead took a slow step forward towards Garboil. Garboil only looked up at more. Look, Slaparf, please, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lash out like that at you. Garboil's speech was cut off when Slaparf lunged at him. Garboil screamed and fell back. Slaparf grabbed Garboil's throat, ripping tightly and pulling him into a choked, gagged, and he struggled to get Slaparf off of him. Garboil could barely even speak as the grip was too tight, but Slaparf kept him pinned down to where he couldn't move or fight back. Garboil felt Slaparf's claws slightly pierce through his neck, causing his neck to trickle blood on the ground. Garboil could feel himself getting weak as the grip on his neck got tighter. He then slowly felt the life being squeezed out of him. When Slaparf spoke, his voice was raspy. Who's the weak and defenseless now? Before he then bit Garboil on the neck and sank his jagged teeth into Garboil's neck and esophagus. He shook Garboil's now defenseless body, and before throwing him against a wall, Garboil hit the wall with a loud crack as his neck snapped on impact, and his body went limp. The cave went silent with the exception of Slaparf's heavy breathing. Slaparf grinned, pleased on what he did now before he let out a chuckle. His one eye was twitching as he spoke, in a raspy voice as ever. Now each creature who dares to try me will end up dead like you or worse. He chuckled again. Loving his new version of himself, booms to Slaparf's insane psychotic laughter echoed in the cave only for a matter of time before another creature tries to mess with him, either gets infected by the well-known hydrophobia or very well known as rabies that he carries with him, or gets killed by him.
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Ms. Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.